Hello everybody, welcome back to EAFC 24. For this video, I'm gonna make a little video kind of rating different I'm gonna be rating 5 YouTubers regardless of size and regardless of status and whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna be rating their starter squads and seeing like kind of like my opinion on them and stuff like that, seeing what they think about certain squads. And then I'm gonna be specifically rating like their suggestions and also their like pretty much their starter squads basically. But I'm gonna start off with mine. This is my starter squad. I made a little update to this from last video because there are some things that you may have noticed that have changed. So for example, Diogo Costa right here, I think I'm pointing the wrong thing. Yeah, Diogo Costa right here. You'll see he's gonna be the new goalkeeper there. St. Justice and Osterwald are gonna be part of that group because of course St. Justice is still gonna be pacey as hell. Osterwald is gonna be pacey, but even though he has 72 defending and 80 physical, he is a 6'4" center back, so he will be plenty useful, I think, in those aerial battles and stuff like that. Maybe if some evolutions come around, he'll probably be a lot more meta and stuff like that. But apparently according to like the meta meter and whatever the heck they use for the measurement on Easy SBC, he has a B as the meta player, so he's not too bad. Of course we have Osayi, Samuel and Sanusi on the fullbacks, so those can really go either way, but it doesn't really matter for me. The midfield is generally going to still be the same with Torreira, but I added Fred here because he looks to be a decent box-to-box midfielder, so I'm gonna add him as that type of box-to-box. He has a B+ rating on his rating and stuff like that. And of course, my boy Dries Mertens for his return as pretty much gonna be his last year. So I'm gonna have him play as part of the main account RTG that I'm gonna be running. One change I made here is, of course, Gyökeres is still gonna be the main striker, and I know he's gonna be relatively expensive for a starter player like him, but I think for what it's worth, he'll hopefully be around when I do end up playing this game. But I made a change here where I put Edwards and Galeno on each side. And that's because Galeno, with his pace and decent dribbling and just like, good shooting and passing, I guess, for starter team, he'll be that pacey winger that I kind of need. So once I put him into that position with the role and everything, maybe he'll be a pretty good meta player. And then, of course, Edwards will be on that same wing as well. So I just wanted to start off with my own starter team just to get us warmed up. But for now, let's move on to our first YouTuber. Alrighty guys, our first man to watch here is going to be MattHDGamer, which I'm pretty sure most of you do know about. But I want to take a look at his starter team and see how it compares to my own. So, of course, we see that he has Joao Felix right here on this side. Joao Felix is still going to be a really decent, starter player. He's 80 rated, and for what it's worth, 90 pace. Oh no, it's 80 pace. Sorry, 80 pace. So looking at this is like a pretty slow winger from what I'm seeing, and I don't know how I really feel about that. I think for wingers particularly, you really want kind of like a pacey player on those wings. Because let's just say this, if there really is not much difference in FC24 than it is in FC25, it's pretty safe to assume that pacey wingers like, like for example, Chukwueze. Chukwueze was a pretty good option. 88 pace with 83 dribbling and a little bit of good shooting and passing with a little, maybe like a dead eye. That's a pretty good option, at least for like, this and that. Although, let's also be fair. This is also just like the cheapest options as well. Like, I'm also taking, the cheapest options as part of, like the deal. So Chukwueze will definitely be one of those like kind of cheaper options, I suppose. So it's really just a matter of like seeing how well it like, it looks during the gameplay and stuff like that. But let's take a look here. We have Reindeers, which he has 80 pace, 76 shooting, 80 passing, 84 dribbling, 73, 74. As a box-to-box, he'll be really good. And I think given that he's from AC Milan and stuff like that, it may add a little bit to the value, but I think overall, I think this is a good box-to-box as well. Loftus-Cheek, of course, he's going to be one of those like, kind of bulkier type of players in FC25. That is a really good option as well. Not too bad. Matheus Nunes has been a good option, I think. I think as another box-to-box, he is another good one to consider. Nuno Santos is a bit interesting, and I think for what it's worth, it's okay. Because, you know, even with the 83 pace for a fullback, I think for the most part, you're just going to look for those kind of like passing, a little bit good dribbling and stuff like that on those fullbacks rather than just pace. And it's mostly just going to be used to just like, you know, get yourself out of there. So yeah, that's not too bad. Godfrey, again, 70, a little low pace. Well, 81 pace is fine. But of course, you know, the 74, 75 pace and stuff like that. I mean, defending and physical, not too bad. Gonzalo Ignacio, that's another player I was considering. But I wanted to test out the big ones before, the big tall player before I started using Gonzalo Ignacio, you know, as that starter center back, basically. And then at the end, they have Diogo Dalot, which again, fairly decent. He's not going to be very expensive, but I think for his role as stuff like that as a fullback, it does the job well. So, MattHDGamer, of course, he's looking more towards the cheaper options. So, as far as that is concerned, I would give that one more or less like, you know, because I'm trying to rate these teams based on like not just usability, but also just cheap. You know, the cheaper they are, the better they are. You know, the cheaper, the higher rating it is. I think for what it's worth, will be more or less like a 7 out of 10. I think for a team like this, it's actually not bad, and especially price wise, it's going to be super affordable. So yeah, not bad overall. So I'll give that a 7 out of 10 to MattHDGamer. Good on you. Next up, we got Mory. He is a up and coming. Well, I wouldn't say up and coming. He's a more successful YouTuber than I am right now. He's at 27K subscribers. Either way, though, show these guys some love and stuff like that. Just you know, share some of that, you know, love towards these YouTubers as well, not just me. But let's take a look at his team then. And obviously this is more on the expensive side, so I can kind of already dog points a little bit. But as far as starter players go, you can see that he's already looking at Isak right here. He's looking at Isak and Gyökeres as well in the top two. So as you can see right there, his two starter strikers are looking very, very, very strong. And of course, that's going to be on the more pricey side. I'd say about maybe like 20K each on those. So that's already like 40K more or less. I'd say more for Isak, less for Isak and more for Gyökeres maybe. But we'll have to wait and see. Savinho, that's an interesting option because he does play for Manchester City, which does add to his value. So I'm guessing this card is going to be, give or take, he's going to be around maybe 5K, maybe 10K or so. In between that range. So he's definitely going to be a very usable player in that wing. So as far as I'm concerned, that's still a really good option. A little bit on the spenny side, but I think he's going to be really good. Joelinton and Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez is one I'm heavily considering now because I realized that he also plays for I think he plays in Benfica now. So they could add another option for like Gyökeres, for example, but it really just depends on how much his price is. And considering that Renato Sanchez, his rating and his more or less his stats are kind of like dropping off and stuff like that, safe to say he's not going to be as strong as he used to be in previous years, but he'll still be a viable option, I think, as a starter. Joelinton, I think in that similar range, although his physicals is definitely going to be very helpful in that situation. He'll likely be better used as like a holding DM and stuff like that, maybe or so, but maybe with that high dribbling, with like 82 dribbling, stuff like that, maybe it'll work out. Who knows? Pepe on that right side is very interesting because I think even if he's Brazilian and even if he's from Porto, I think those kind of stats are very helpful in those starting lineups because, you know, you kind of still need that pace. You kind of still need that dribbling. So Pepe is definitely going to be a viable option, especially if you're looking cheap because he's definitely not going to be expensive. That's for sure. So that's definitely going to be a good safe option there. Udogie, though, that's going to be a spenny one. Of course, with Van de Ven as well. These two guys are going to be... I want to say if memory serves right, they'll probably be almost the equivalent of the Varane and Mendy combination that we had back in like FIFA 19 to 20 to 21 and stuff like that. You know, that was that meta. So just be ready for this kind of combination to appear often in a lot of the more sweatier teams and stuff like that. So be on the lookout. And of course, he has Gonzalo Ignacio with 80 pace and stuff like that. Diogo Dalot again and Diogo Costa again. So, yep, safe to say it's around the same good squad and stuff like that. As far as value goes, it is going to be on the more expensive side. But I think, yeah, I think as far as the balance goes, it'll still be another 7 out of 10 for this, because as much as you like to add the, obviously the stronger players and stuff like that, it is also just like, a more expensive side of things. So I mean, unless you find another good striker and stuff like that are cheaper than these two, I think, and obviously defenders are cheaper than them, really, it's really going to be tough to see. But shout out to Mory. Let's move on to the next one. Alrighty guys, our next YouTuber is going to be from Oyolitos. I believe that's how it's pronounced, or Oyolitos or whatever, I don't even know. But in any case, he is a professional EAFC player who plays for Ninjas from Pyjamas, I think, or Pyjamas, whatever the name was. And he plays for the Swedish national team for the FC25 professional scene. So it's always good to have at least a bit of perspective from a professional as well, a professional FC25 player. So we're going to take a look at his starter squad and see how well his looks compared to the others. And so immediately off the bat, we see Malin right here. Malin is definitely going to be one of those slightly expensive options. But of course, with this pace and his dribbling and stuff like that, it's no wonder that, people are often choosing Malin over that too. So Gyökeres, of course, that's the standard at this rate. I think it's safe to say, I think it's safe to say that everyone's going to choose Gyökeres as their starter striker. That's going to be the number one player. And of course, he's Swedish. Why not? Mudryk, Emre Can, and Mecha, and Bailey. Those are pretty good options, actually. I think for what it's worth. And Mecha, I can't really see his stats well unless I'm here on the actual YouTube thing. He has 80 pace, 69 shooting, 71 passing, 80 dribbling, 75 defending, 81 physicals. I mean, Emre Can is going to be one of those kind of expensive options, but I think he'll likely drop in price pretty quickly. So that's actually not a bad option. Mudryk with the 92 pace, but obviously a little bit low on that dribbling with 80, but 72 and 72 on passing and shooting. And then Bailey, of course, he's an 82 rated, but with 90 pace and 86 dribbling and stuff like that. That's actually not bad. I think that midfield is actually pretty good, especially considering the price as well of these players. So that definitely moves it up a bit. Of course, we have Matson, which I think is another good cheap option right there with what is it? 88 pace, 72 defending, 81 dribbling, and 63 physicals, which for a fullback is not really a big deal. Thiago Jallo and Gonzalo Ignacio, of course, the same typical ones. Gusto is another player here that had just been added, a Chelsea player, French. He also has 88 pace, and I think he's actually a really good viable option as well for that fullback position as well. So safe to say that, coming from, just watching all the other players and stuff like that in general, it's safe to say that he definitely knows kind of his way here. He looks really good. I'd give this one, at least price wise, obviously rating wise it could be an issue, but price wise I'd give this one an 8.5 out of 10. I think for what it's going for and everything like that, especially considering all the options, it's not a bad starter team. And I think if he utilizes well, which I'm pretty sure he is a professional, then it's safe to say that, yeah, this is going to be a pretty good starter squad, at least for, for the start of the game. Next up is your boy Alio FC. This dude I've been following for a while already. He's a really good YouTuber. You should follow him as well if you ever feel like you need to watch, good old pack openings and really good, rank 1 FUT Champs rewards openings and stuff like that. Really good YouTuber. But let's take a look at his starter squad. And, he did mention that, of course, this is his starter squad. Doku is going to be on that expensive side, as much as it is, I mean, come on, 92 pace with 86 dribbling. I mean, really can't go wrong. Of course, with Rapid Plus as well. He's going to be a really big beast, but he's going to be one of those expensive beasts, along with Chiesa as well. Chiesa is going to be heck expensive, He's going to be really, really expensive. So, already off to pretty much a rocky start with expensive cards. Joao Felix at the striker position feels more like the actual position that Joao Felix should be playing rather than the wing like MattHDGamer had. He is going to be a really cheap option. But I think for a striker, I think he'll just be as useful in there than he would be at a winger. I think he'll be probably more useful at a striker position than he would as a winger. So I'll definitely give Ozio some points for that. Matheus Nunes and Joelinton, of course, that's pretty standard. I think that's, you know, obviously the box-to-box, a little bit of a holding DM maybe, or holding center mid for Joelinton. And Kunku as a cam is probably a really decent option, considering that he has, you know, 86 dribbling, good shooting and passing, 81, and then 81 pace. I guess for a cam, pace doesn't really necessarily matter, so long as he stays up kind of up front and creates those like passing opportunities, which and Kunku definitely has some passing. That's actually not a bad option, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be cheap considering his pace. But again, pace, it's only really necessary if you're like kind of like a winger and stuff like that. If you're trying to play this game like you should, you know, or at least how EA kind of intended to, the cam is definitely going to be like, you know, the distributor more or less. And when the time comes, he'll approach in and he'll probably do those follow-up shots whenever it's needed. But as far as the cam goes, he'll just be, you know, like the distributor, the playmaker. Maybe he'll play in that shadow striker, stuff like that, you know. Already, of course, he has Udogie and Van de Ven, of course, again, in that back position. Todibo and Kadioglu. Kadioglu is a really good option, actually. Kadioglu, for what it's worth, he has really good pace. He has that 88 pace, and he has decent little stats in here. And now, since he plays in the Premier League, he'll just be a really good option, honestly. He used to play for, he used to play in the Super League, but of course he transferred to the Premier League for Brighton, rather. And I think he'll be a really good option. That's actually not going to be too bad. Todibo, that's also a really good option. I don't know how expensive he'll be, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the cheaper side. 81 pace though, with 80 defending and 78, 79 physical around there. Can't even read that right. I think it's 78 physicals. In any case, I think that's still going to be a pretty cheap option, and I think he'll just be just as useful, if not, you know, a really good starter center back. I guess for the most part, realistically, he's going to be a good center back. Pope as a goalkeeper is definitely a deviation from a lot of the other goalkeepers I've seen so far, where they usually use, you know, Diogo Costa. But that's pretty much his squad. I would give this one the same rating he kind of did. I'll give it like a 6.5. I would be a bit more generous, 6.5 to 7. The reason why is because, again, as far as starter squads go, this is pretty much like a good, decent starter squad. Of course, the only problem being that, you know, price. It's always going to be worth price. You know, Doku's going to be expensive. Chiesa is going to be expensive. Udogie is going to be expensive. Van de Ven is going to be expensive. Joelinton could be on that little tier of like higher type players. And Kunku, of course, his rating is going to give him a little bit more of a pricey feel to it. But overall, I think it is generally a better team. But if you're comparing the price with the team and stuff like that, you can start to see a little bit of the problems. Lastly, we'll end it with our good old boy, Danny Aarons. And of course, it's not just limited to him. He had plenty of help with chat as well for this one. But let's take a look at his squad and see how well it plays. So clearly you can see he's going with a very heavily focused, Brazilian team. And already off the bat, he has Endrick as a striker, which I think it would be his natural position considering, you know, kind of his build. Even though he has that good pace, you know, the biggest drawback is obviously his shooting, his, you know, passing, his dribbling, stuff like that. So I think he'll just need more time to kind of see if he gets any good informs and stuff like that, if he even can play enough to get those informs. But we'll have to wait and see. Talisca is a very interesting option. I think Talisca, he has good dribbling and good shooting and kind of decent pace. I think that's like 79 pace, I believe. Yeah, 79 pace. He's in that same boat as like Joao Felix. Although I argue Joao Felix is a bit better in regards to dribbling, at least. Shooting wise, it's going to be very good, I think. So it's not too bad. But overall, I think Talisca's just not going to be that kind of player, at least not yet. Savio and Brennan Johnson is an interesting choice. Brennan Johnson, he has great pace. The only thing that's holding him back is the dribbling. He is definitely going to be one of those cheaper options. But I guess if you're looking for kind of that pacey winger type of deal, you're really going to have to improve that passing, a little bit of that dribbling, maybe like an engine or something like that. That could definitely help. Maybe. It really just depends on his in games. Fofana and Kessie are really good options for center mids. Fofana with those high physicals and of course well-rounded, you know, kind of high well-rounded except for pace and maybe a little bit of the, you know, maybe a little bit of the dribbling, I guess. Let me take a closer look here. Like, yeah, 73 defending. It's not too crazy, but overall not a bad, well-rounded player. Kessie though is going to be very interesting. I think Kessie is going to be one of those players that is not going to be very expensive, but I think he'll actually be a really good, you know, I think he'll really be a good option. Sorry, I was pointing it the wrong way. But he's definitely going to be a good option for maybe a holding CDM, kind of like a defensive. He's definitely going to be more defensive. But the one good thing about CDMs that you can utilize him for is the good passing and stuff like that. I think he has decent passing, so maybe just a little bit of improvement on those. But that's actually not a bad option. That's really good. Reguilon, never thought I'd see this dude again. But I think for a fullback, he's not too bad. But I think you'll definitely find better options on that left side. The ones that generally have a bit more like pace and maybe a little bit more dribbling. But I think overall, Reguilon is not too bad, maybe. Ibanez is very interesting. Ibanez is one of those players that I think because of his pace, he'll have definitely that pace tax. He's an 85 pace player with 81 defending and 82 physical, which is not bad. The dribbling could be a bit of a problem, especially if you're trying to get out of those areas. But I think the pace kind of makes up for it a little bit. And he has slide tackle plus, which I guess it's not too bad. If you had to anticipate, that would be a lot more worth it. But you kind of really have to build your players around like the players you already have, like Saudi League players and stuff like that. So that's definitely going to be kind of like the bit of the drawback. Well, maybe not. Maybe the Brazilians do help out plenty. Murillo, I don't know about this one. 72 pace is a bit too slow. 78 defending. Like, here's the thing, right? There is kind of like a balance between choosing a player that has like pretty good pace, but also needs to kind of balance it out with good defending and stuff like that. And I think he just doesn't fit that bill. Murillo just has way too low pace stats and a bit too low of defending stats to be considered really good. The only benefit he has is that he plays for, I think he plays for Nottingham Forest. If I can even read that correctly. I can't even see it well with all this quality stuff. But Antonia Silva, again, is another option that I don't really know about. She has decent dribbling and defending, but the pace is not there. The pace is definitely not there for a fullback at least. So I'd say that's kind of that's not too good, I guess. You could definitely find better players who are probably more pacier and have almost equal to a little bit less with the defending and dribbling, but will still be on that good meta player like Kadioglu, for example. Kadioglu would have been good in that position. I think if he had plenty of I think if he would have already like plenty of Premier League players, he could definitely fit in, good old Kadioglu in there. He'll probably get some of that chem, and then maybe just use Mendy and replace Mendy with Premier League goalkeeper and stuff like that, and give him a bit of that, connection right there. So overall, it's not too bad. I think he also did like put a in-game formation. Savio, Johnson, and Endrick on the front three. That's not too bad. Talisca, yeah, that's kind of where I'll put him. Maybe a bit more into like that cam role, while Fofana and Kessie are like kind of holding it back on the back down, on the lower side. So yeah, I mean, it's not too bad, but I think for what it's worth, it's nothing amazing. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Value wise, it does earn a lot of points for me, so I guess I'll give it a 7.5. Value wise, it does work, but there are plenty of those players that just do not fit. You can definitely find better players than these two. Reguilon, maybe there might be a better player for him as well there. But overall, yeah, that's pretty much the rating I give Danny Aarons over here. Good old Danny. And with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video I made. Make sure to follow and subscribe all these YouTubers. Follow all of them on their socials and stuff like that. And of course, with that being said, if you guys like this video, also like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you all next time. See ya.